That's right. It's time for everyone's favorite Twitch politics show, The More Perfect Union. Covering the best in U.S. politics and Twitch political drama, we aim to disarm the left using the Constitution as our spear and shield.
The entire articulation for the use of deadly force is the imminent threat of death or great bodily harm. It has nothing to do with whether or not...
What was the threat?
As a matter of fact...
What was the threat?
Are you out of your mind, Gappy? You're out of your mind. Get ready.
The other thing is that the cost of enamel paints and Warhammer figures has gone through the roof. When you poll foreign citizens of other countries about our president, they don't vote, and they are not representing the voice of their governments. It is true that a lot of foreign governments are glad that Joe Biden is president because they steamroll his shit left and right every way, 7 ways from Sunday. Matter of fact, twice on Sunday. I care what the American people think.
Okay, well, here we are back. The More Perfect Union on our pre-election eve special, talking about Dan Kelly running for Wisconsin Supreme Court justice position, a position he had when appointed by Scott Walker in 2016. He survived until 2020 when he was beat in the crazy blue wave election that allowed a bunch of idiots like Joe Biden to come into office. So he's running again, and his his opponent is a pretty touchy-feely left-winger leftist progressive named Janet Protasewicz. And if you haven't had a chance to look these guys up, recommend find them on YouTube. Look at their ads. She accuses him of being blah, 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 blah. Daniel Kelly says, the justice should have only one role. Evaluate the cases that come before them against the existing law and the Constitution of Wisconsin, the Constitution of the United States. And Janet Protasewicz says she'll bring her experience to the table. Well, her experience also includes some really, really horrific things, like giving little to no jail time to multiple violent felonies that some resulted in either homicides, in the case of one person who was let out early, had given almost no time, for a domestic violence charge, and then he subsequently killed his partner. And then another is a person who raped a 13-year-old savagely was appreciated for what their life could be. So you look the stuff up on YouTube, look it up on Facebook. They're all over the place. There could not be a starker difference in what these two candidates represent. And I got a little bit of video from the event that was at Patty Ryan's in in Hudson, Wisconsin today. I didn't know this until a couple of weeks ago because I'm not from here. But there's a difference apparently between North Hudson and Hudson. And for me, the difference really is primarily I-94 that goes right through the middle of them. There's a little bit more shopping mall-y-esque on the south side, and it's more of the old traditional area up front. And if you checked my YouTube video interview out with Robert Fowler, who is running for the town chair of North Hudson, you will get a sense for why that is. So I recommend you take a look at that too at youtube.com/@symbol The More Perfect Union 4812. Take a look at that. Subscribe, like it, have a bunch of fun with it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, and this is kind of weird. So that view, I don't like that view. It's really messed up. Might have to fix that. I really do have to fix that. But anyway, it'll just kind of hang out off to the side a little bit. But in any case, I'm gonna flip through a couple photos and stuff that I had here. So this is at Patty Ryan's. And this is a membership chair on the left, and one of the members that helps out. And, they actually had regional news media here. So this is Channel 5 WCCO out of Minneapolis, was out back there operating the camera and having a good old time. There's Robert Fowler. He's running for town chair. He was doing his thing. A little bit of stuff. So, yeah, let's just play this just a little bit. I don't know if you can hear that or not. Maybe not. I can't hear it. That was just a little short thing. You probably can't. I can't even hear it. Can you guys hear that? If you can't hear it, just let me know. Click. It's one of the problems with with all the stuff. Anyway, it doesn't really matter that much. They're kind of making their last minute pitches. A lot of what Robert Fowler was saying was actually part of what was going on in the interview. So it's it's a lot of standard boilerplate stuff. He's if you're doing a campaign, you're well developed. You're going to be talking about the campaign that you want to bring. And the big highlight was a guy that named Daniel Kelly. So Daniel Kelly actually comes in and he's doing his thing, and he spent a fair amount of time talking about the rule of law if he's elected and the rule of Janet. And much of the material or information that had gone forward under or since Scott, the Supreme Court has been pretty conservative for a while. Most of the stuff that has gone in since the Scott Walker administration is subject to re-review. And you know how it works. They find a way to job shop a case forward, and then they can get it in. If they can get a liberal majority on that court, it's going to be problematic for 10 years. So the election has a lot of serious consequences to be able to, get that taken care of and move forward. So I'm telling everybody in Western Wisconsin, make sure you get out, make sure you vote, make sure you get at least 10 other people to go vote with you. They need it. Off your elections, off your spring elections are the worst in terms of being, well populated. We're hoping that there's going to be a lot of drive out this year, but please get out and protect your constitutional rights, because if Janet Protasewicz gets in on that court bench, there's going to be a problem. And there's just some more stuff. That's his wife. And that's, that's kind of it, right? Just, it was like, this guy has been all over the state. He's driving himself crazy, flying everywhere, doing what he's got to do to get things done. And I tell you, I've had several significant interactions with him about judicial philosophy and his position on the law. And I think that he's the kind of person that everybody can be proud of for him to be on the bench, because he's not going to tilt his opinion based on what he thinks the outcome should be. He's going to evaluate the case according to the law. And that is frankly all we could expect, all we should expect, and all we must expect from everybody who is a member of the judiciary, regardless of the level at which they apply. So, wow, that's a mouthful. Lots of exciting things that are going on. But I'm going to make this kind of free form. If you have a reason to support conservatives or liberals in your area, please come join us on Discord. Let's talk about what that is and see where we can agree or where we can agree to disagree. Certainly welcome you all to come on out and then participate in. I definitely appreciate and value your participation here on the show. So let's see what we got. Who's in the show? Looks like we got EOD 696. Thanks for coming up. Do appreciate it. Mind of Z was here earlier. Deep South Jody, thanks for coming in. The truth is, most of the judiciary is full of left-wing activists who have no clue about the Constitution. I think we have seen a couple of federal court nominations recently in the Senate. And John Kennedy, who is the senator from Louisiana, just made mincemeat out of him, right? Do you know what Article 5? Do you know what a Brady motion is? And he's like, well, I've never had the occasion. I don't know how you could be a judge in a criminal case and not have somebody make a Brady motion, which everybody knows is the way that evidence is handled that might be beneficial to a defendant. Yeah, John Kennedy is fantastic. He's like one of the funniest guys in the Senate. He's so down home, and he's brilliant. The man is brilliant, and he's able to sell it off, right? Everybody thinks he's kind of a country bumpkin, but that man is tight. He is brilliant. And I think it's a travesty that we don't have 99 others like him, to be honest. No matter how much you like one of these guys, or no matter how much you might like your senator or whatever, but if you had 100 John Kennedys, man, the Senate would be nothing if not very funny. But he's a good dude, and he just brings it forward. And he's, you know, and other people. I think this model is sort of kind of being picked up because I think other people have been going after other nominees using this same thing. So, like, what are the basics, right? I mean, I can't remember who the guy was, but if somebody was up for FAA or NTSB or something like that, and they were asking him basic tenant rules that you should probably know. Now, you don't have to know the nth level manual, right? I mean, there's a ton of stuff in the Federal Register, and it's impossible, to be honest, to know all of it. But when you get to the 30,000 foot view, if you're going to be in transportation or you're going to be with the FAA, you should understand basic things like stuff that I had to learn in order to get a drone pilot's license. You should know what, you know, class A, B, C, E airspace is, and when you can traverse that space and what are the rules and requirements for you having to be able to do that. And this guy was like, well, you know, I'm not a pilot. I'm not a pilot. Well, okay, well, you're not a pilot. Well, you're not going to be confirmed. So just go back to wherever. Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you can't tell a person what a woman is, then you have no business being in charge. Well, look, I could tell you what a woman is. So I'm in charge of my own show, and not that you could do anything about it, not that you're trying, but a woman is a biological adult human female. And Ketanji Brown Jackson, who is an adult female human, said that she wasn't a biologist. You dig? What up, iDodge? I love that name. I know. I love why you do it too. iDodge22. Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome to the show, guys. It's been a hot minute. I did check the VOD. Immediately preceding this show, I did a little retort or take on the racist allegations that the St. Croix County Democratic Party did against conservative candidates who are running for election for various town board seats and town board chairmanships tomorrow. I mean, election day, right? This is an off-year election in Wisconsin. So the spring elections when they do all their like municipality stuff. So go check that out and go look at the St. Croix County Democrats website. And I don't know, if you want to firebomb them with a little bit of email, I would say go ahead and do it, right? I'm not saying go firebomb them. Don't tell them that MPU said go, you know, create hell and discontent. Don't do that. They'll be labeling you January 6th, or you'll be like an April 4th. You don't want to do that. But if you want to light them up with email. Light them up with if they got voicemail, light them up on their Facebook page and just tell them how bad you think they are and how despicable it is that they would level a racist claim. And when asked to provide information to prove the claim, that they wouldn't do that. It's very problematic that people do this and get away with it, right? They did this with the Hunter Biden laptop. They did it with all kinds of other crap, okay? This is crazy that people are allowed to get away with this, and I think we have to, you know, we have to bend them backward over for it. And we got to make them understand that this is not acceptable behavior in a civil society, and that the things that they're doing are actually creating an uncivil society, and it's not going to go well for them. Isn't that where what's his name is pushing the Republic as a friend court nominee in Wisconsin? I don't know what his more info. That's a little ambiguous to me. I love it when they say, well, that hadn't come up my time as a judge, right? I mean, that's just crazy. I mean, it's like, you know, I mean, have you read a law book? I mean, right? I don't think you can get out of law school without understanding what a Brady motion is, right? And you damn sure can't pass the bar without knowing what a Brady motion is, especially if you're a defense attorney. They do this with the left all the time. Just about anything is true. But if you ask him for proof, you're the problem. Yeah, no, that's exactly how they couched it in their letter. Let me pull that up because I think it is worth noting I think it's worth noting that this was really kind of problematic for these clowns. So I'm gonna bring this up over here on my alternate screen. Click, click, click. What am I doing here? There's too many crazy windows. There we go. Oh my God. Let me pull this back up on the old alt camera. That. But in any case, you know, he leads out by saying communities thrive on open dialogue and communication, especially on community issues where people don't agree. Right? Right. We can all agree with that. That's a good opening statement. With all the changes and challenges in local communities in St Croix County face in the coming years, we are likely to agree sometimes and disagree at other times. It's great when we agree, but when we don't agree, let's disagree with grace and civility. And then he launches into a racist attack. Like literally in the next breath. That's just crazy. And I talked to multiple people who were at that meeting, including the restaurant owner, a guy named Gary Lund. He said nobody ever said the phrase Somali village. Nobody ever expressed a fear that quote unquote undesirables or people that didn't look like us or whatever were going to move in. It was literally a discussion about TIF financing for a multifamily housing project, which would have required a change in zoning regulations that are largely beneficial to farmers and people that live out in the outskirts of the town proper. So there's a county zoning regulation that says lots can't be parceled any smaller than 3 acres. And the way that Mr. Lund had brought it up is that, you know, we like the kind of life that we have. We can get up at 7:30 in the morning. We can ride 4-wheelers, right? You can be on an ATV and just having a good old time with your life, and you can enjoy your life. And they pay extra taxes because of that, because they don't have a tax base as much. The marginal tax that they each pay is higher, and they're all okay with it. And at a certain point, a community has to have some right of self-determination, and that's the argument they were positing. Nobody was making an argument based on race. And as a matter of fact, Mr. Lund, in his restaurant, he indicated that he hires a variety of ethnic types for people, and that has never been a consideration of his. He just wants people that want a job and want to do the work. And he said he himself spends about 80 to 90 hours a week working in that environment. So check the VOD out on that, which is immediately preceding this show on Twitch. And it'll be, I'm going to trim it up, clean it up just a little bit. And I'm going to put it out on, I'm going to put it up on YouTube as well. There's one little section in between the interview that it was a Zoom call that I recorded. And I'm going to tune it up a little bit, put it in the proper format, and then I'm going to put it up on YouTube tonight. I'll probably clean it up tomorrow, to be honest. It's been a long day. But I'll clean it up and do that one thing. The thing that I found really troubling about what these guys did, right, is they said that calling out behavior has its own risk because it can make you the enemy. Well, if you're the person who falsely levels the charge of racism, are you not the one who's racist? Are you not the one who is the problem? Should you not be seen as the enemy if you level a specious allegation? The Democratic Party has done this over and over and over with the pushing, grandma over the cliff, right? When it's Social Security, right? Paul Ryan was going to throw your grandmother over the cliff. Joe Biden, they're going to put you all back in chains, right? The Barack Obama, right, has to try to sound black because he's super educated and he did what he had to do to fit into a political class environment that sort of appreciates enunciation. But when he campaigned, especially when he campaigned for Hillary, he would drop into some sort of like Southern kind of poor people of color accent as a means to sort of rile up Democrats and think that Republicans are racist because they don't like people to sound like y'all. They don't like people to sound like y'all. Okay? It's despicable. But they get away with it. They get away with it because the news media doesn't confront them on it, because the news media is all about the policy rather than the productive means to an end for society, which is, if you don't like what's in the Constitution, change the Constitution, right? If you want to have no guns, pass an amendment that outlaws the Second Amendment or recodifies it in a way that works. You just got to get 2/3 of the House and Senate and the president and then 38 states. Or call a convention of states. All you need is 34 of them. I can't remember the last count, but I think it's over 20 something now. You get 34 states, call a states convention of states. And then you can get 38 states and you're good to go. Right? I mean, it's hard, but it's easy. So just do that. Do what you got to do to make it work. Okay? I get tired of Democrats and liberals, like Liberal Cluck, for example, who say that they don't care that it doesn't fit within the Constitution. They just want it. They just want it. And I'm like, but if you just want it, why can't you advocate for the change? Well, I think we should change. Well, why don't you? Why aren't you campaigning for that? Instead you campaign for liberal judges who will give you what you want. We are at 27 states. Thank you for that, Deep South. I appreciate that. I know the number, it goes up and it can go down, but most of the time it's pretty hard to retract, right? Because you got to have some sort of a major flip over in the legislature. But 34, man, just 7 states. 7 states. 7 states. 7 states. And personally, I think we should have a constitutional amendment that says that every 50 years we will have a convention of states. So I like Article 5. We should amend Article 5, okay, to add a 50-year requirement. That's long-lived, and it maybe prevents the tyranny from going for 150 years, right? We should have had, my opinion is we should have had in 1950, we should have had a constitutional amendment, because then we could have undone the bullshit that Woodrow Wilson did. We could have gotten rid of the progressive income tax. We could have repealed the 17th Amendment when people realized that the states were no longer getting represented. Do you think that the people who were in the state legislatures when the 17th Amendment was passed, when they ratified it, do you think that maybe if they were alive today that they would have some buyer's remorse? I do. Look at how little power rural states have today. And then, of course, the Democrats and the people that have been indoctrinated out of any kind of rational thought process, they go, well, these small states just have way too much power. They don't have any people in their state, but they get 2 Senate votes. That's unfair. And when somebody tells you that, you just look at them and you go, bless your heart. Bless your heart. You're an idiot. Right? You have to understand why this was done this way. And they clearly don't. Because somebody said that if we don't have a democracy of 51%, first of all, if you had a democracy of 51%, you would need a bicameral legislation, right? The founders wanted the states to have an equal say in what was foisted upon them by the federal government. The people are represented by representatives in the House, and the states were represented by people that the state legislatures wanted. And it was designed that way so that neither the people nor the states would inflict their will exclusively upon the whole. It's a pretty good plan, but we jacked it up. We jacked it up with the 17th Amendment. We also jacked it up with the 16th Amendment because, ostensibly that was to pay for World War I. But the way, and it doesn't say this in the amendment, it just says that the federal government can collect tax on your income, which technically they didn't need an amendment for because they had the power to tax. But the way they go about collecting that tax is patently unfair. I think the 16th Amendment is a violation of the 14th Amendment, personally. Nobody's been able to make that case. I'd like to see somebody make that case. Because a progressive income tax disproportionately favors one group over another, and that is disequal treatment. And whether or not you consider poorer people in economic class status, you should not, just as we don't do race or gender, race or sex. Right? Gender is not part of that amendment. Because gender is this amorphous, fucked up, weird term that people just sort of roll with anymore to be able to do what they want to do and say what they want to say and contort the meaning of words in order to make a definition work for them so that they can qualify for some kind of treatment. And I think it's just, well, I don't think it's very good, to be honest. So anyway, I'd like to take a small break right now and tell you this coffee cup is brought to you by Big Sky, Montana. It's cold as hell, but then so is the coffee. I don't know. I just thought I would do that. Okay, 27 states. Okay, so hey, anybody want to come up on the old? Anybody want to join me on Discord, man? Please come on in. The water is fine, even though the coffee is cold. You can talk about whatever you want. It's I don't know if anybody have elections going on in their states tomorrow. Springtime stuff. Spring is sprung. It's a lot of fun. We got 5 people in chat. Thanks very much for coming in. Hopefully you guys are all following. Hopefully you're not just here for the memes, because, you know, I don't know that I'm that funny today. But I could be. We could do some chat GTP joke quips. I'm going to try that. We say, well, make me a joke about Democrats. I don't know if I can do that. Have you seen the Twitter post that people were doing on that? They say, you know, define a Republican, or define a person who is a Republican, and define a person who's a Democrat, and the stark differences, like that, the non-neutral differences between the two is pretty funny. Oh man. Follow the rules, be placed in the waiting room. That's right. Follow my rules. They're my rules. You don't have to like them, but they're mine. And they're pretty painless, actually. Let me get rid of this. I don't need to see that. Where is my Discord channel? Oh my God. It's somewhere. Discord. Ironic. Yep, okay, nobody's hanging out in Discord with me. Nobody wants to talk. I get Liberal Collective coming every once in a while, but that's just kind of funny. I appreciate EOD the other night saying that I just basically roasted the guy, which is true. I mean, look, he's young, he's indoctrinated, he can't help himself. He thinks that the world is his oyster as long as somebody else pays for it. And that's a pretty rude awakening, because if everything does go to hell in a handbasket, the people who think they're entitled are in for the rudest of possible awakenings. They will be the guys they'll be the guys trying to run away from the guys in Mad Max, trying to figure out how to, you know, make their way through. And none of them look like they can handle themselves like Mel Gibson in the 1980s or 70s. Was Mad Max in the 70s? Late 70s, right? Could be wrong. It happens. It happens. It happens. Oh, goodness gracious. Well, so let me see. What have I done, you know, recently? I've done a couple of interviews. I've exposed content on YouTube. I'm getting ready to begin exposing content on Rumble. You got to pay for that one, I guess. So I'm actually going to be embarking on a media blitz to get a bunch of stuff done. And I kind of like my More Perfect Interview series on YouTube. It's actually, you know, pretty good. Every once in a while, I'll bring a newsmaker in, somebody that's into politics or whatever, and bring them forward and just have a discussion with them back and forth. And I may actually 80s. Okay, thanks for that, iDodge. I think it's important to bring content forward. And I think one of the first people I'd like to try to have a conversation with outside of his channel, I know he'll be streaming on his, and his people will be rabid, crazy supporters. But I'd like to bring IRI into the discussion if I could get him to stay away from the emotional component and then just simply argue the constitutionality of the things that he wants to do. I think that that would be a good conversation. Matter of fact, I think that would be a good conversation with any leftist, is for us to be able to have them give us the foundational breakdown of how their things are going to work. How do you extrapolate tax revenue over a period of time? What is a fair share? What can you possibly do when every time, and you notice this, right? Every time there's an election cycle, the Democrats say that they want to, the Republicans are just for the rich. They give tax breaks to their buddies, their millionaires and billionaires. And the Democrats, they want conservatives just to pay or begin. They don't even say pay. They say begin to pay their fair share, as though they have never paid their fair share in the history of the Republic. And I find it troubling that nobody in the traditional mainstream news media, nobody even on cable news, will confront these people and say, what is a fair share? They moved past income taxes, right? Now, California and other states are talking about wealth tax. Now, they're also not just talking about wealth tax, they're talking about wealth tax on unrealized gains, capital gains. Means you're holding a stock. Maybe you bought that stock 20 years ago. You're holding on to it because you're trying to do the right thing for your family and your retirement. And that stock has gone up like 30 times value, whatever. Say you bought Bitcoin at $4. Even though it's not the crash, right? It's crashed from 60,000. It's still worth 34,000. That's a lot, right? That's an awful lot of gain. And you're still holding to it because you're hoping that the Chinese will stop, criminalizing like the Bitcoin miners, and the price will go back up. And you're holding on to it for whatever reason. You made an operative choice not to sell. California and other states, Massachusetts among them, want to say that if you're holding an asset, you have to pay on the unrecognized gain of that asset, but you don't have anything. It's on paper. So they want to tax your wealth even though it's locked up in an illiquid asset, which would require you to sell the asset or liquidate something. And that's never been contemplated in the history of the Republic. So when the Democrats talk about you paying, quote unquote, the rich paying their fair share, they have a target in mind. They want 100%. They can't get it. But if they don't define it, then they can if they can move towards it, any success that they get in that realm allows them to go back to their voters and say, see what we did? We made them pay their fair share. But when the next election comes around, they always say, well, we need to make them pay their fair share. Pay till it hurts. And like Liberal Cluck said the other night, well, if we took everybody's wealth and distributed it evenly, had an even distribution, no bell curve, no Pareto analysis, just as flat, everybody got the same, everybody could get $80,000. I don't know where you live, but I don't know how long you can live on 80 grand, because that would be 100% of the wealth of this country redistributed. Now, he says he's for redistributive economics because he thinks that rich people can't do anything. Rich people don't know what to do with their money. And so a centrally planned system can better distribute the assets so that it works for the betterment of society. This meme brought to you by the Democratic Party. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Let's see where we are. All right. So I'm getting up tomorrow morning. The polls open at 7 o'clock. I'm getting up at 7. And I think, I got to check. I think somebody said it's going to rain. Maybe it will rain. But I'm going to check. Let me see what my forecast is tomorrow. The forecast tomorrow is 43 degrees at, oh, sorry, that's tomorrow. Oh, there's no rain in the forecast, but it's going to be in the 30s. And a little bit of rain at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but it's just a teeny tiny bit. Now, tomorrow night, after the polls close at 8 o'clock in Wisconsin, it's going to be thunderstorms. See? Thunderstorms. Yay, thunderstorms. It's going to be fun. I'll get my vote in. And if somebody needs a ride, I'm going to be offering people rides. I'm taking people. I'm not just relying on the fact that people will vote, especially when I know that there's so many people who choose not to take advantage of the vote. It's just crazy. Oh my God. Folks, if you like the show and you like me and what's not to like, to be honest, if you have an Amazon Prime gaming subscription you haven't given to Wobbly already, by all means, consider throwing it my way, because I could use the money. I could use it. And I buy equipment, so 100% of my donations go to making the stream viable. So I appreciate the fact that anybody who wants to, if you choose to, I'm very appreciative of that. And failing that, I'm definitely appreciative of anybody who jumps in and joins the show and watches. I do appreciate you guys as followers, and when you interact in the chat, it makes me feel super special. So, I'm not that narcissistic, but I do like it when you talk. So tell me what's up. Tell me what you want to talk about on the show. Yeah. Have you guys seen anything interesting going on where people have been doing like crazy stuff? I don't even care about like I don't even care about the stinking drama guys. Like everybody's going off on Hassan or whatever. I think there's enough craziness in the world not to have to care about that at all. But, so I got to clean that up. That's something I got to do later. I think what I'll do is I'll open up a web browser now. Click, 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 click. Here we go. Open up a new window. And, let's just peruse the news. I guess Trump. Now, I haven't really talked about Trump lately. It's pretty big news that, former president of the United States is charged. We don't know exactly what it is, but the news media widely reports it's things that are related to the Stormy Daniels payment. And the stuff that so far has been released in public, not related to the charges themselves, but just the stuff that we know about, right? Because it was part of the Michael Cohen plea and everything else that went on there. There is an awful lot to be really quizzical and scratch your head about in terms of what this indictment's going to look like tomorrow. So, I was looking at Fox News and some other channels earlier today, and they were talking about how, Trump Force One left Florida and it landed at, I think, LaGuardia. And of course, they showed a little bit of video with, him leaving his SUV and going into Trump Tower, where he is spending the night. I haven't looked, so I'm going to look at this, and we might be seeing this the first time together. I'm going to look at Fox News and see exactly if there's any protests. Because I think the Trump's new defense attorney is no stranger to getting indictments dismissed. I think we should look at that story. Let me pull that up. Click. Let's see if I got something here. Let's move it over. Oh, look at that. I can make it smaller. I can make this fit better. Look. Yeah. Look at that. It's just a different size window. I think I need to make a twist change for my game. So my game floats in this sort of the same monitor window view when I'm doing flight sims. So Trump's new lawyer got Manafort indictment dismissed. Okay. Well, there we go. President Trump's new lawyer successfully got a criminal case against former President Trump, one-time campaign manager Paul Manafort, dismissed in the same courthouse where Trump faces charges on Tuesday. Todd Blanche will be joining the criminal defense team, which includes Brooklynite attorney Joe Tacopina. There is no lead. We are one team, one family, one mission. Trump flew from Palm Beach, Florida to New York on Monday, arriving at Trump Tower in the early afternoon. The legal shakeup comes one day before Trump is arraigned on criminal indictment obtained by the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office. Charges stem from this. Now, this is all speculation, right? All of it is speculation. They don't know what's in it, and they won't unseal it until tomorrow. Now, I guess the judge could take the unseemly step of keeping the indictment sealed, and also doing the what would be really, for the level of crime that's alleged, an unprecedented gag order, which would, this has already been pulled in the news media, right? The news media's had like a week or two to basically roast the former president on air, comics, making jokes, whatever. Trump he's had an opportunity, obviously, to say the stuff that he wants to say, but and most of this, because it's a political case, most of this is really about the Manhattan District Attorney and the Democratic Party writ large to try and get Donald Trump set up where he can't be successful in a campaign. It is campaign interference at the worst possible levels. It totally is. So the alleged thing is that this is about the Stormy Daniels payment, when clearly Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels both said this was not, this was done, it was a personal thing between her and Cohen, and that Cohen was paid back by Donald Trump, but Donald Trump didn't have knowledge beforehand, and he just did it. Michael Cohen said he just needed Michael Cohen needed the problem to go away. Now, he subsequently was found guilty of perjury in a federal court. And I mean, this guy's he's on SiriusXM. I may have to cancel my SiriusXM subscription, even though I really like Patriot 125. Guys like Mark Levin, Andrew Wilkow, Hannity's got a show on there. I'm less enamored by Hannity's thing because it's more just rabid politics. Andrew Wilkow, super smart guy. Mark Levin, super smart guy. And Stacey on the right, Stacey Washington, she's out of St. Louis. That chick has got her crap in one sock. She is good. So if you happen to have a Sirius XM radio subscription, at least give those guys a check out before you cancel it, because I'm kind of on the fence. The actual charges will be unsealed at his court appearance at 2:45, I think, tomorrow. Manafort was convicted of a mortgage fraud, several years in prison. Hours after he was sentenced, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office under Cyrus Vance, predecessor, announced a 16 Trump indictment against Trump's ally, alleging he had defrauded banks by lying to obtain mortgages on 4 properties. Now, this had nothing to do with Donald Trump. It was all Paul Manafort's deal. And they did that because they wanted Manafort to flip over on Trump. Blanche quickly hit back with a motion arguing Vance's prosecution was politically motivated and illegal on double jeopardy grounds, which it was true because he had been found guilty in a federal pleading, and the case and the charges were substantially the same. And I think that was actually a novel defense, because normally you can get double jeopardy, but not in the same court. Normally. In a surprising decision, Maxwell Wiley sided with Manafort and dismissed the indictment as a major blow to the office. And that really was the beginning of the end for Cyrus Vance, to be honest. People have failed to establish the harm or evil each statute is designed to prevent is very different in kind from the federal statutes for which the defendant was previously prosecuted, he wrote in a 26-page decision. Yay. So much for that, right? Let's see what else we got here. Okay, well, let's see this. This is interesting, because I wondered whether or not this was actually going to be a case where the judge would allow the cameras into court. And you know that CNN and all these clowns, they would just be eating it up, right? They'd be wall-to-wall coverage, no interruptions whatsoever. And I think I think it would actually be good, to be honest. I mean, it might not be good for the president, but I think having the people hear firsthand this case and whether or not it is as thin as all the legal pundits who have been arguing it as it is, that's interesting. And here's what I think. I think if Trump's attorneys are against it, are they really against it? Are they playing Alvin Bragg a little bit here? If they get cameras and then Bragg's prosecution team just looks like a bunch of idiots, a bunch of people that were antagonistic, frankly, if I were Trump's attorney, I'd call Alvin Bragg. I'd make Alvin Bragg a witness because he ran specifically on getting Trump. That's not show me a crime and I'll show you the man. This is show me the man, I'll give you a crime. This is Stalin-esque. And Andy McCarthy's right. The Democrats want Trump to they don't want him prosecuted. They want him persecuted. They want him punished. They want it to be punitive. They want to hurt him because they want to send a message to the rest of the nation that if you go trying to upset our apple cart, we're going to get you. And that's what they're doing to a lot of the people for January 6th as well, right? There's a lot of people that were there, minor trespassing charge. They weren't interested in trying to prevent the peaceful transfer of power. They got caught up. And it doesn't help that the federal government had informants on the premises who were doing things to gin people up. People like Ray Epps, for example. I know that people who come out on the Ray Epps example, they said, well, the one thing where he says go into the Capitol, okay, was January 5th. And then January 6th, he just said go to the Capitol, right? It's two different videos. And some people have conflated them together to say, well, this is an example of X. But if you believe the Democratic argument against Donald Trump was to say that, well, for months he told people that he was pissed, that everything was fraud, that he somehow, quote unquote, through the use of free speech that didn't advocate violence at all, but because he did it over a period of time, that somehow set the table for the insurrection, so-called insurrection on January 6th, which is just, it's ludicrous. It's like the Democrats in St. Croix County, right, saying that because somebody opposes tax increment housing for multifamily high-density housing, which would adversely affect the way of life for people who like a country life, a country lifestyle, and the impact of services and things of that nature that would affect the town and be a strain on resources. Those are legitimate things. But they don't imply a racist thing, especially when you start throwing in the names of specific racial groups, like Somalis. Well, the Democrats do this all the time too, right? They want Trump to be punished because he upset their apple cart. And frankly, a lot of the neocons and the rubberneck Republicans, people like the Lincoln Project, Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, these clowns all want the same thing. Because Trump coming in and saying, guess what? We are not going to take it anymore. And whether you like him being bombastic or not, he did what he said he was going to do. And you have to appreciate the fact that that's in fact what he did. And they don't like it. And they're afraid. They are deeply, deeply afraid that if he runs and he gets elected, because they know how bad Joe Biden is, and they know that people are going to be watching, there's not going to be the ability to do this bullshit that they did before. And I will tell you this, a note of warning to Republicans everywhere. If Mark Elias is attached to a state case involving elections, you need to put whatever money you have to put into it to get somebody in there to defend against him. He is a talented lawyer, and he is there for one thing and one thing only. And that is to weaken your election process in your state, period. He is an instrumental reason why the 2020 election was handled the way in which it was handled. And irrespective of any shenanigans that went on, whether there were enough fraudulent activity, literally fraudulent activities to go on. The laws, the court cases that Mark Elias was part of circumvented the state's sovereign right under the Constitution to set the time, manner, and place of of the federal selection for presidential electors. Make no mistake about it, Mark Elias is part and parcel the reason why that happened. And if you don't think, if he's in a case in your state, you better make sure that you guys are fighting it. And I got to go look and see what kind of cases that he's trying to bring up in Wisconsin. But I'm telling you what, man, that guy scares the living bejesus out of me, because all he needs is a semi-sympathetic justice or judge. And he's going to do it. And he's going to steamroll you. And then we're going to be sitting here in 2025 going, oh my God, the election was stolen again, and we didn't do anything about it. I'm telling you right now, be aware. Be aware and be prepared. New York City braces for potential protests on the eve of the Trump arraignment. Now, I'm not seeing anything, right? You'd think this would be up on the thing. Let me see. Oops. Oh man, that's terrible. I got music here. No, that's up. I have to bring that up in a loud thing. Oh Lord. What is it? 8:42? Oh my God. 7:42. 7:42 in the Central Time Zone. I was Siri. I said, oh my God. And she said, indeed. I think I need to turn Siri off. Democratic mayor torch for begging feds to step in as crime overwhelms her city. Yeah. Good job. Yeah, that's pretty funny. Underway, 3 lifeless bodies found on a proper tourist beach in Mexico. Yeah, no, not good. So Katy Perry shames a contestant on American Idol, and Ginger leaves the Gilligan's Island. Apparently, it's okay. She'll probably, I don't know. I see a stark similarity there between her and a recent mass murderer. I could be wrong. We're not talking about Katy Perry, by the way. I don't think she looks like a mass murderer. Unless you talk about like the psyche of small children that are on American Idol. Yeah. Wish we had a president like Donald Trump in the White House right now. You think the journalist that's languishing in the president, waiting for another arms dealer trade? Do you think that he's going to be okay? I mean, they got Brittany Griner, for Christ's sake, out there trying to levy or lobby the White House to get this guy released. Well, the only way you can get people released under Putin's way, right, is you have to trade them for some horrific, twisted bastard. I just think that's I think that's how it's going to end up. We're going to find there's some terrorist, or they're going to do a 3-way trade. It's going to be like Iran-Contra for terrorists. We're gonna get one legitimate journalist for some illegal money, some JCPOA, and some Nord Stream 2 rebuild money. That's what's going to happen. I get rather sick and tired of it all. Listen, guys, I've had a long day, and yesterday I was sick as a dog. So I think I'm going to call it for the show since nobody wants to come into Discord, and there's no dialogue to be had. So, guys, I want to thank you so much for being a part of my show, at least to come in and watch. This has been The More Perfect Union, and as I always do, that sound means it's time for us to just kind of wrap up. This is an election eve in the off-season spring that happens every couple of years here in Western Florida, Wisconsin generally. It may happen in your state. Recommend that you vote if you haven't, or if you have an upcoming election, make sure that you vote in that. Take some other people to the polls with you. Cannot underestimate the value of a Democratic vibe to sway and chill participation in the electoral process. They think we don't want them to vote, but in reality, they don't want us to vote. If we vote, they lose. So we just have to stand up, take our country, our state back, do all the things that we need to make these things happen. Guys, this is the More Perfect Union. This is a special pre-election show coming at you live here on the old Twitter and the YouTube and the Twitch.tv. Check out the VOD later on here on Twitch and YouTube. Take care.